In this video, I'm going to talk you through how to make this quite simple but effective 3D printed opposable snowman on OnShape. And as you can see from my example here, you can move all the main parts around. It is a little bit jerky when I do it on OnShape here, but when you 3D print it, it will be slightly more movable, and we'll talk about how we're going to optimize it during the process for 3D printing. So let's get started. Right, to get started, we're going to go to OnShape and we're going to create a new document. And you can call this a posable snowman or just snowman. And if you want to put it into a folder, you can. I'm just going to keep it in my open section for now. Once this opens, we're going to start with the first part. Now, our first part is going to be the base piece. So we're going to click on our front plane. We're going to click sketch to create a new sketch, and we're going to click on the front orientation to make sure we're looking square on at what we're drawing. It's important to remember at this point to stay away from the right click button on the mouse, as by clicking that you might accidentally drag yourself out of orientation, and that can make your views a little bit harder. If this does happen, just click on the front orientation block and you're back to where you need to be. So we're going to start with a circle. So shortcut key C, or you can click up here for circle. And we're going to use the central coordinate system, central point on the axis here. And we're going to click and we're going to drag out and we're going to click again. And while the white box is active, we're going to type in there the dimensions we want. So for this first one, we want a diameter of 50 millimeters. So 50, and press enter. We're going to do the same thing again on that same center point, and we're going to click again. Now, if you do miss this white box and it goes blank like that, you can press D for the dimension tool, or you can go up here to find your dimension tool. Click on that, click on your circle, and it'll give you the ability to give a dimension for that. And for that, we want 48. This will give us a wall thickness here of 1 millimeter all the way around. We're now going to draw two lines across the bottom. We want them both intersecting both circles, but you notice that as I hold my mouse there, my line is not blue, but it's blue and yellow dashed. If I move it away from where I've got it there, it becomes blue again. If I hold it here, it's blue and yellow dashed. That means it is perfectly horizontal, and that's what we want, a nice flat line that's going to hold our circle in the correct orientation. I'm going to press the L button twice to clear and then get my line tool back again. I'm going to draw another line below it again with the yellow and blue dashes to make it click again. I'm going to go to my dimension tool and I'm going to dimension the bottom line from the center point. So I've clicked on the bottom line first, I clicked on the center point second, and I'm going to click over here and make this 20. I'm going to do the same thing again by clicking on the bottom line first and then the second line second. I'm going to make this 2. Press enter to finish. And I've got a fair amount of what I need done now. The next thing for us to do is to go back to drawing another circle. So I'm going to draw a circle and I'm going to hover it on that central line above my circle. And you notice how the line in between where my cursor is and where the center of the circle is has gone yellow and blue dotted again. And that's to show that I'm directly above it, vertically in line with it. I click, I move out, and I click. I'm going to make this dimension here 40. There we go. The next thing for me to do is to go back to my dimension tool and click the center of this circle to the center of this circle, and the distance again is going to be 40. I can now do one last thing, which is my line tool, and I'm going to draw a straight line from the center point down to this bottom line here. That's all the drawing I need to do. And that's all the drawing I need to do. So I now need to start removing some of these lines because it's a bit confusing. So I'm going to go to my trim tool, and I'm first off going to trim away this circle, but I'm leaving these two bits here. I'm then going to trim away the parts in between them. And to move around, by the way, I'm pressing down the middle mouse button and dragging. This gives me my pan feature. I'm now going to remove these bits around the outside here of these lines. I'm now going to remove the bottom bits of this circle. And finally, I'm going to remove the inside bits of these lines here. I've now got this shape left over. Because I've got this line here, I can get rid of this bit here. And I'm going to use this line and 1/2 of what we've drawn to make our first shape. And I can exit this sketch now by pressing the green tick button. Press the green tick, not the red X. The green tick will finish it, the red X will cancel it. So I press the green tick button and I've got this sketch profile. I'll zoom out a little bit, and now I'm going to use the right click mouse button just to shift my orientation slightly. And this will, you'll see why I've done this in a second. I'm going to go to my revolve tool. My revolve tool allows me to pick a profile and revolve it around a central axis. So I'm going to pick this profile here. It's just 1/2 of what I've drawn. And now I want my revolve axis. My revolve axis is this line here. And this is why I've gone slightly off into a 3D orientation, so I can see that it's come to a nice 3D shape. I've got a flat bottom, I've got my hole in the top with a slight curve to it. That's going to be the same diameter as the next part we're going to make. This is our base. I'll press my green tick to complete that, and that is part 1 done. Right, now for part 2. To make a second part, we're going to press the new insert tab button down the bottom left hand corner here, the plus, and create part studio. So that's going to give us an additional part. Once that's loaded up, we're going to go into this and we're going to start drawing part number 2. So the same as before, press the front plane, press sketch, and press the front view on the orientation block, and we're now looking here. So we're going to make a circle with the same center point, bring it out and type 40. We've got another circle inside it, and this one's going to be 38. Oh, that is off center. We don't want that. So we'll try that again. So make sure you hover over the center point there and click out. So one of the biggest advantages of CAD is you can just undo and redo and you're not going to lose anything. We want another circle up top here. Again, you can see the yellow and blue dashed line. That tells me that I'm perfectly in line with the center point. I click, I drag, and I'm going to make this 25. Now we're going to take our dimension tool and dimension the center of this to the center of that, and we're going to make that 30, and that gives us a small little groove for part number 3 to sit in. And just like before, we're going to go to our trim tool, shortcut M, and we're going to trim away what we don't want, which is all the lines or curves there and the top bit there. And that's the first part of part number 2 done. We can finish that off. We can go to our, oh, we have missed something. So if you spotted what I've missed, well done. I need to go back and add my line in the center here. So I'm going to right click on the sketch and I'm going to edit. This is a really handy tool if you ever need to go back and edit a sketch, add something to it. I can go back and edit it. I can press my line tool. I'm going to do my line from the center straight down to the bottom there. Go to my trim tool and trim away what I don't need. I can go back to the green tick and finish it again, and now I'm done with that part. So I can go to my revolve. I can select my profile and my axis, and if I hadn't gone back and added that line, I wouldn't be able to do this part here. So that's now revolved round, and that's looking really nice. Right, we could come back later on and do this. Right, we're going to come back to this part later and we're going to add some more details once we've got the main body assembled. So we're now going to jump straight onto part number 3. So part number 3, insert a new tab, create part studio, wait for it to load, and we're ready to start drawing our next sketch. To do that, again, click on the front plane, press sketch, and click on front on the orientation block, and we're ready to get started. So this is a nice easy one. We're just going to draw 2 circles, one, and this is going to be 25, and then another circle, same center point, and this one's going to be 23. We need a line going through the center, and if you notice, if I hover on the top of that circle there, I've got my yellow and blue dotted line showing me I'm in perfect orientation with the top, and it's going to attach to that top line because that line is highlighted. I can click once, drag down, and I'll click again with the circle highlighted again, and that means that the nodes from what I've drawn are locked to those 2 points there. I can press my trim tool, I can trim away the inside lines there, and what I can do if I want to is I can get rid of 1/2 of this. I'm going to leave it here to show you that I'm only going to use what I need and to save time for you, but it's up to you. If you want to get rid of that just to make sure you know, or you want to leave it there, it's fine. So I'll go to my revolve tool again, and if you do leave it all there like I've done, be careful what it is you're selecting. So I'm selecting this profile here. If I selected this profile or this profile, something different might happen. Either of these outside profiles are fine, inside profile, don't select that. So by clicking here, and then my axis, as you might have hopefully guessed, is this line here or this line up here, and I've got a nice sphere. All done. We're going to add a little bit of detail to this one now while we're here, just because this is going to help us see what it is we're working with. So we're going to add a face to this. So we'll click on the front plane, click on sketch, and click back on the front face of the block, and we'll zoom in a little bit. So we want to do some relief cutting, so we're going to cut away a face. And we'll make it nice and simple. I'm going to draw a circle here, a circle here, and from that central point, I'll draw a circle out to about here. And it might look a little bit skew right now, but it will make a little bit more sense. So with our dimension tool, I'll dimension the size of these eye holes here, and we'll go for 3mm. And with that one, we'll go for 3mm. And then we're going to do center point to center point, but I'm going to make sure I drag my mouse down, and we're going to go 3.5 there. I'll do the same thing for this one, center point to center point, but instead of keeping that diagonal line, I'm going to go straight down and make it 3.5. And then I'm going to do the same thing again, center point to center point, but I'm going to go across this time, making sure my measurements are up and down. I'm going to go 6, and the same thing here, center point to center point, and make that 6. With this circle here, it's not too particular where it is, but we'll call that 17.5, and I want a line, and the line can be virtually anywhere you want it, depending how big you want the smile. I'm going to have mine approximately here, but I do have my dotted line going across. Now you could have a massive smile like that, but I'm going to use a different tool to make my smile. So I'm going to go over to my arc tool. I'm going to go to my 3-point arc. So it's the 3-point arc tool here, shortcut A, and I'm going to do the first click on the node of that line, the second click on that part of the line there, and here's now where I choose how big my cheesy grin is going to be. I'm going to make it about that. That looks good to me. I can get my trim tool, and I can trim away that circle and that line there, and I've got a nice cheesy grin, and I've got 2 eyes. If you want to adjust these measurements, you can. So looking at this, I might think those eyes look a little bit too close together, so I might make them 4 on each of them, and it updates it for you, it moves it around. Again, CAD being a fantastic tool that we can use. I'm going to exit that sketch. Now I can't actually select those profiles very easily, but I can select the sketch over here. So by selecting the sketch and then going to my extrude tool, it tries to extrude them out, make them a 3D boss from the shape there, but I want to remove. So I'm going to use the remove option here, and it's trying to go the other way. So I'm going to flip the direction, and now it's cutting right through, and we're creating that relief there. So if you notice that I've gone to remove and I've changed the direction. An alternative to that is you can click and drag that arrow in the direction you want it to go. And that's that bit done. We need to make one more part now, and that part we're going to make is going to be a top hat. So we're going to create a new tab, create part studio, wait for it to load, and again click on the front plane, click on sketch, and click on the front face of the orientation block. So we need to make a couple of squares this time. So corner rectangle, and it doesn't matter whereabouts you do this, you can do it up here, down here, or somewhere in the middle, slightly off center, it makes no difference. So I'm going to do mine here, and I'm going to click once, click twice, and my white box appears. So I'm going to make this 25, press enter, and the second white box appears, and I'll make that 25. Now I'm going to draw another rectangle, and notice how when I hover here, a dotted yellow line appears. That means I'm in line with those nodes and that line that are already there. So I'll click there, and I'll click down there. Now this is saying how wide do you want it to be. Well, I want it to be 40 wide and 2 mil high. But you can see that's definitely off center. So I'm going to get my dimension tool out, and I'm going to dimension that edge to that edge, and I want that to be 7.5. And now that's nicely centered. I can take my trim tool and I can get rid of these bits on the inside. So that same line there twice, and that's given me everything I wanted there. You might notice I've lost a dimension. I've lost my height dimension from top line to bottom line of the first rectangle because I've got rid of that bottom line. So I'm going to bring that back in by using my dimension tool, dimensioning that edge there, clicking and pressing enter. Just in case I accidentally shift something, things won't go out of proportion. Next, we want to make an inside version of this. So we want another rectangle on the inside here. A really quick and easy way of making that is by using the offset tool. So with the offset tool, I can click and drag everything, and it's saying a 5mm inside. That's a bit much. We only really want this 1 mil inside. So I can click and drag if I want, try and get it exact, or if I zoom in, I can double click on the measurement there, make that 1, press enter, and I've got a rectangle on the inside. You notice that nothing went inside here, and that is purely because the 1mm inside of that is the same as 1mm inside of that. It would have caused the conflict, so it just kept it on the inside there. I can now use my line tool to go from the center point. I can do it from the center point at the top, or the center point at the bottom, or the center point of here. It doesn't matter. But I'll go from the center point. I'll do center point at the top all the way through. Nice straight line, so it's hovering yellow and blue dotted, and click there. I'm going to go to my circle tool, and on the line, not at the end of it, but on it, I'm going to click and click away. And I'm going to make this 25, and you'll notice that that's the same diameter as the head we made. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to choose how far down this is going to go. So we're basically deciding how far down the head we want the top hat to sit. And so with my dimension tool, center of that circle to the bottom of that line, and I'm going to make this 8. So it's going to sit a little way down, give it a shade. If you want it to sit higher up, you can just make that number larger. So you might want to go 9 or 10, just so it sits a bit higher. I'm going to stick with 8. I think 8's a good measurement for me, but you might have a different preference. We can now go to our trim tool and we can start removing things. Well, we don't need this circle or this part of the circle here, and we don't need these inside bits here, and we don't really need the line. So I might remove that line there and remove that line there. Notice how the dimensions have stayed, because this diameter here is in relation to this curve and this curve, and this dimension here, the 8mm, is in relation to the center point of those curves. So if I did want to update this at a later stage, I can still double click on that 8 and make that 9, and it's going to adjust the measurements for me, or I can take it back to where it was. Okay, we can now exit this, and now we need to do our revolve. Now, while playing around earlier, I did make this work first time, happy days, but then later on it decided it didn't want to work on the second time, so there's a workaround if it doesn't work. Ideally, you press revolve, select your profile, select your axis, and it makes it first time, and that should work perfectly. If it doesn't, on revolve type, you can choose one direction and then the angle, and I was having trouble getting it to go the full 360 degrees, so what I done was 359.9999, and it came out with that there and a tiny little line just there. But hopefully you shouldn't need that, and you should be able to go revolve, choose profile, choose central axis, and you've got your top hat. Right, we can now start assembling. So in an assembly, we take all the individual parts and we place them together using some of these mate or join features up the top here. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to insert part 1. So click on it here and click on the screen. Press the green tick, and that is part 1 inserted. I'm not moving the part, I'm moving the screen. You can see by the orientation block in the top right hand corner, I'm moving the screen around. I want this to stay exactly where it is. I don't want it to move around. So I'm going to right click on the part and I'm going to go to this option fix, and that fixes it in place, which means that it can't be moved. If anything else is moved, they're moved around this. We're now going to insert our second part, and that's going to be part 2, the bulk of the body. And we're going to go back and edit this in a minute. So press my green tick, and I'm going to use the feature ball mate. So this takes a spherical object and mates it to a spherical relief, which is what we've got here. These aren't straight lines, these are curves. So click on that, and that is now in place. I'm going to do the same, insert part 3, and I'm going to use my ball mate feature. Oh, it didn't work for that reason. So click on that part there we go, and now click on that one, and that's in place. And you can see that if I start moving the head moves around, and so does the body. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to insert part 4, which is our top hat. And look underneath the top hat first, ball mate, go to my curve and go to the head there, press the green tick, and we have a top hat on a snowman. Now if you remember correctly, my original one that I showed you earlier had 3 buttons on here. this is a nice little addition. If you want to skip this step, by all means do so. Otherwise, follow me along and let's add some little buttons on here to give it a little bit of detail. So we're going to go back to part 2, because part 2 is looking a little bit bland. And we're going to look at the front. We're going to click on the front and we're going to click sketch. Now on this front sketch, I'm going to draw a circle smack bang in the center, and I'm going to make it 2.5 millimeters in diameter. That looks a bit small. Okay, perhaps we'll double click on that and make that 3. So I've got that there. I'm going to press the green tick. That's that done. And because I've got the hole in the top, I can actually access that profile if I need to, or the shortcut, an easy way is just to press the sketch. I'm going to press extrude, but this time I'm going to do new. And there's a reason I'm selecting new. Because there's something I'm going to do afterwards, I need this to be something that's a new feature, and then we're going to combine them together again. So I don't want this to go all the way. So we're going to do a starting offset. And the starting offset we're going to do is 19 millimeters. And that's going to bring it just inside that body there. This means it's going to merge eventually when we tell it to. And I only want this to be 2.5 mil deep. Let's have a look at this. Yeah, that looks about right. 2.5 mil. And we're now going to use a feature called fillet. And this is going to round the edges because we want this to look quite nice. So I'm going to press that fillet there, and I can drag that down either by hand, or I can manually put that in there at 1.2. Maybe 1.25. 1.5. Oh, there we go. 1.5 makes it nice and round. And press the green tick. And there we go. We have one button. It's something, but it's not enough. So we're now going to create multiple versions of that. But first, we need to add a new something in there. We're going to look at the left-hand side and we're going to sketch on the right plane. And I'm going to draw a circle. Draw my circle from the center point, and I'm going to make it bigger if I want to. I can make it smaller, it doesn't matter, but I've got another circle there. I'll make it bigger so it's nice and easy for us to see. So I've got my circle there, and I'm going to go to my pattern tool. Now yours probably looks like that, the linear pattern. We're going to drop down and go to circular pattern. And it wants to know what entities to pattern. Well, I want you to pattern this bit here, part number 2, and it's selected part 2 here, including the extrude and the fillet. Axis of pattern, well, I want this to be my axis, and it automatically tries to give me 4 equally spaced across the whole thing. That's not what we're going for. So we're going to deselect equal spacing, we're going to select centered, and we're going to say, well, we want 2, and we're going to make this 25 degrees. And now we've got 3 nice buttons in the middle that look quite good. So we'll go with that. I think that's going to look good. Press the green tick. Now you can notice that these are grey and the main body is blue. If I go to my assembly, they haven't appeared. Look all the way around. Nope, it's definitely not there. And that's because they're not part of the same part. You can see they're all separate parts here. But what I can do is I can click on each one individually. They all get added. I can right click and I can go to Boolean. Boolean is a mathematical operation that allows you to intersect, subtract, or union. And that means we can join them together. Press the green tick. And now they're all gone blue. They're all part of the same part. If I go to assembly, it's automatically updated. And there are my 3 buttons on the body. That is how we make and assemble the snowman in OnShape. The next video will show you how we export each of these parts ready to be 3D printed so that we can 3D print this feature. Okay, good luck.